I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. When I found my wife's secret stash hidden in her car, I did something much smarter. I replaced it with industrial-strength adhesive. What happened next required ambulance crews, humiliated them in front of the entire neighborhood, and exposed a murder plot that would shock our quiet community forever. My name is Arthur, and for 25 years, I built my life around Eleanor. She was my anchor, the steady presence who made everything make sense. Our life wasn't flashy, but it was ours a comfortable home, shared routines, and a love I thought was unshakable. That illusion shattered on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. I was doing something I'd done 100 times before, cleaning out her car. It was a small act of service, a way to show I cared. But that day my fingers, while digging under the passenger seat for a lost coin, brushed against something that didn't belong. A small, cold, cylindrical tube. It was personal lubricant, a high-end brand still sealed. My blood turned to ice in my veins. Eleanor and I hadn't been intimate in that way for over 3 years, a quiet understanding that had settled between us with age. So why was this here? And why was it hidden? The discovery opened a floodgate of doubts. Suddenly, her recent behavior snapped into a terrifying new focus. The late nights at the office that had become more frequent. The book club running long. The new, expensive perfume she'd started wearing again. I tried to dismiss it. I told myself I was being a jealous, paranoid old man. I prayed I was wrong. But then I saw his car, Mark's sleek black sedan, parked discreetly 2 blocks down from our house on an evening. I was supposed to be at a work dinner. Mark wasn't just some random man. He was our son-in-law, married to our only daughter, Chloe. The man we'd welcomed into our family. The man I'd helped get his landscaping business off the ground. The betrayal wasn't just a knife to the heart. It was a twist of the blade. I felt the very ground beneath my feet become unstable. Sleep became a stranger, and food tasted like ash. Suspicion, however, is a ghost. I needed a body. I needed proof. So, I went to the hardware store where I'd been manager for 20 years apace. I knew better than my own home, and I bought a tiny, voice-activated digital recorder. The next time Eleanor casually mentioned working late, I planted the device behind the bookshelf in our living room, my hands trembling not with fear, but with a profound, soul-crushing sadness. Kissing her goodbye that morning felt like pressing my lips to a marble statue. I drove away, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, and took up a position where I could watch our home. Right on cue, Mark's car pulled into the neighborhood. I watched, my jaw clenched, as he strode confidently to my front door and let himself in as if he owned the place. The sight was a physical blow. The recording I retrieved the next day was worse than I could have ever imagined. It confirmed the affair, yes. Their intimate whispers, their shared laughter at my expense, it was all there, a symphony of deceit. But then the conversation turned. Their voices dropped, becoming serious, calculating. Did you double-check the insurance policy? Mark's voice was calm, clinical. It's $750,000. I'm the sole beneficiary. He has no idea, Eleanor replied, her tone chillingly matter-of-fact. And the medication? You're sure he's taking the switched pills? They look identical. With his stress levels and the extra sodium I've been adding to his food, the doctor will call it a massive heart attack. No one will question it. I sat in the driver's seat of my truck, parked in the far corner of the Home Depot lot where I worked, and the world simply stopped spinning. This wasn't an affair. This was a conspiracy. My wife of a quarter-century and the man I treated like a son were coldly, methodically planning my murder for an insurance payout. The emotional pain was so acute it felt like a physical wound. But then, something shifted inside me. The grief and shock solidified, cooling into a block of pure, unyielding resolve. They had underestimated the quiet, simple hardware store manager. They were about to learn that I possessed a very particular set of skills, honed over a long career of solving complex problems. I couldn't go to the police. Not yet. It was my word against a recording of questionable legality. I needed something public, something undeniable, something that would expose their monstrousness for the entire world to see. A plan began to form in my mind, elegant in its brutal simplicity. They had used intimacy as their weapon of betrayal. I would use that same intimacy as their trap. My years in hardware had taught me everything about industrial adhesives. I knew about their incredible bonding strength and the medical emergency they could create. The idea was perfect. I would carefully empty the secret tube in Eleanor's car and refill it with a specialized, high-strength, clear industrial adhesive. When they used it, they would become permanently, physically fused together. It would be painful, humiliating, and impossible to explain away. But the glue was only the first act. I needed an audience. I needed a spectacle that would guarantee witnesses and an official response. Using my old knowledge of electronics, I rigged a secondary smoke detector in our hallway to a remote trigger. I then hid a small, powerful Bluetooth speaker in the living room, loaded with an audio file of people screaming and calling for help. The stage was set. The following Tuesday, when Eleanor gave me the familiar working late excuse, I simply nodded, kissed her cheek, and told her to have a good evening. My heart was no longer a hammer. It was a cold, heavy stone in my chest. I drove away, then circled back and parked down the block. Just as expected, Mark's sedan appeared within 20 minutes. I watched him enter my home, my sanctuary, and felt nothing but a cold certainty. I gave them time. I let them feel secure in their deception, let them get to the point where they would discover the lubricant. Then, from the silence of my car, I activated the sequence on my phone. The smoke alarm erupted in an ear-splitting shriek. Moments later, the recorded sounds of desperate screams and cries for help echoed from inside the house. "Help us! Fire! We can't get out." The effect was instantaneous. Porch lights flicked on up and down the street. Neighbors spilled out of their homes, their faces etched with confusion and alarm. Within 3 minutes, the air was split by the beautiful, glorious wail of sirens. Fire trucks, an ambulance, and a police car converged on our quiet cul-de-sac. And then my heart stuttered. Leading the paramedic team, her face a mask of focused professionalism, was my daughter, Chloe. She was about to walk into the heart of her own personal hell, and I was the architect. The firefighters, hearing the desperate cries from within, didn't hesitate. They broke down the front door with a single powerful thrust of a ram. Chloe was the first one up the stairs, her medical bag in hand, shouting, "Tampa Fire Rescue, call out." The sound she made when she pushed open the bedroom door is a sound that will haunt me until my dying day. A sharp, strangled gasp, followed by a silence so deep and profound, it seemed to swallow all the chaos from outside. She had found them. Not just together, but grotesquely, inextricably fused together by the industrial adhesive, trapped in a humiliating and painful embrace. The look on her face, the dawning horror, the utter devastation, the complete shattering of her world was the most painful part of my entire plan. But it was necessary. She had to see the raw, unfiltered truth. The entire neighborhood watched, phones recording, as they were carried out on stretchers, covered in sheets but utterly exposed. The public humiliation was absolute. But my mission wasn't finished. At the hospital, I played my part to perfection, the shocked, grieving, bewildered husband. I visited Eleanor in her room, listening to her tearful, pathetic excuses about it being a mistake and not meaning for any of this to happen. A nurse came in and left a tube of special medical gel for the skin, irritation caused by the adhesive removal. When Eleanor finally dozed off, exhausted, I made a simple, swift switch. I pocketed the healing gel and replaced it with an identical tube filled with a potent capsicum extract. I then repeated the process in Mark's room down the hall. About an hour later, the hospital corridors were filled with a fresh round of screams as the fuzga, burning sensation ignited their already raw skin. It was a final, painful lesson in consequences. In the chaotic aftermath, the truth exploded. Other women came forward. Elena, our next-door neighbor, confessed through tears that Mark had been having an affair with her for 8 months, swindling her out of thousands for his failing business. Margaret from the Garden Club and Patricia from Westchase told similar stories. Mark was a sophisticated con man, a predator who specifically targeted older, wealthy, lonely women, manipulating them for money and even coercing them into changing their wills. My wife wasn't his great love. She was his most lucrative and willing accomplice in his most ambitious scheme, murder. The police were called back. The evidence I provided, the damning recording, the financial records I'd gathered sealed their fate. Mark was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, multiple counts of elder fraud, and grand larceny. Eleanor was charged as a co-conspirator. Their lives were effectively over. Our community rallied around Chloe and me. The support was overwhelming. Casseroles appeared on our doorstep, and friends stopped by daily to check on us. My quiet, calculated revenge had not only saved my own life but had exposed a monster and protected who knows how many other potential victims. Chloe moved back home for a few months, and in that time, we began the long, slow process of healing. Our bond, forged in the fire of the ultimate betrayal, became stronger than ever. Mark is now serving a 28-year sentence in a federal penitentiary. I kept our home, my savings, and most importantly, I kept my daughter. The moral of the story is this: never underestimate the quiet man. He isn't weak. He is often just waiting, watching, and planning for the perfect moment to ensure that justice is not merely done, but that it is witnessed by everyone. If you believe in facing betrayal with strength and intelligence, let me know which city you're watching from in the comments below. And please, support our channel, Winds of Thought, by liking this video and subscribing for more powerful stories about overcoming life's darkest challenges. Because you truly never know what someone is capable of until the people they love most are on the line.